broadcasting from across the North American continent of the Terran Empire, bringing you our unpopular Star Trek opinions since 2020. This is Code 47.
We are back again. This is Heinz 57 episode of the Code 47 podcast over on the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. I am Charlie Carden, your Trek Lord of Western Michigan, captain of the USS Grand Petoskey in the Starfleet International Fan Club. And I am joined by my esteemed colleague, guest who has made it to the third round of the Squid Game here. This would be Paul Moderman, who has been just a great sport about all things, embracing kind of the new and different. So, Paul, how is your day going?
My day is going great, and Charlie, my climb up Mount DS9 and Mount Voyager is also growing great as well. You're Sherpa-ing me like a wee babe in a Sherpa pack. I don't know what they do with that.
Is that what they do? Like a papoose?
Maybe they do. I don't know. It's a thing. But it's going great, and I look forward to making camp further up the mountain this time.
Yes, indeed. And we passed the halfway mark. Paul is with me for 4 weeks. This is week 3. And so what we have decided to do, and it was Paul's suggestion, is that we have Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Star Trek Voyager, 2 of the Star Trek series that Paul let me know that he was not as familiar with. So he says, give me a 2-for-1. He says, give me 2 great episodes. Give me an episode that's got awful, and let me kind of run the emotional gamut between the two. So we decided to do that, and it's just not hard at all to pick some gems, and it's not hard at all to pick some stinkers. So anyway, we're foregoing the news this week because I love this segment so much. I want to dedicate as much time as possible to it. So we're just going to jump right in. So this is we're back to Voyager this week, and what we've done, we've engaged with the moral dilemma that is, we've moved through season 4. We've watched 7 of 9 develop as a character. We've gone all the way through season 5. We watched a lot of different things happen with the cast. And now we have reached the end of season 5 with Equinox, part 1, and then part 2, which kicks off season 6. So if I may be so bold, Paul, I will read the synopsis to part 1. I'll let you give your thoughts, and then when it's appropriate, we'll launch into part 2, and we'll kind of take it from there. And then we will, completing the good, we will go into the not so good. So
into Stinkerland, yes.
Into Stinkerland, yes. Do that. We're going to keep that part a little apart. We're not the part that spreads apart. Isn't that naughty? But isn't that OPP? I'm not talking about that. I'm done. That's not good. Okay. Part 1 of Equinox. Voyager finds another Federation starship, the USS Equinox, stranded in the Delta Quadrant. But they also find out that the Equinox is harboring a dark secret. Oh, October's a great time for dark secret. I love it. So, this was the first band of Starfleeteers that we have encountered in person in the Voyager show. Now in Voyager, in the middle of season 4, there was contact was established between Voyager and the Alpha Quadrant via a little adventure that the Doctor went on. He was able to be transmitted back. He made contact. The Federation was able to find out that Voyager was still alive, and then it was a long time before regular contact was then able to be maintained. So this was first contact of a way. And we had an interesting cast. We had, our captain was Rudy Ransom was his name, who was John Savage, the deer hunter, who I actually met at Wizard World in Chicago in 2010. Yeah, seemed like a very cool mouse guy. And Maxwell Burke is his first officer, who was played by the character actor Titus Welliver, who you see in absolutely everything.
That guy's all over the place, and he's great. I loved him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So anyway, with me teeing it up, it is the Paul Show. This is all about your impressions and your thoughts. What you're seeing, so go for it.
So the choice you made here for the good ones, I really love these ones, Charlie. And so I just went through and I made notes and stuff. So first thing I noticed, I thought it was great, was somehow it falls to 7 of 9 to be the comforting presence to some dude who's been like shot or whatever, or crushed under like ship parts, and she's like, please be aware that your life signs are fine. She's got this, like, she's not comforting, right? Yeah.
And it's funny, that actor is actor Rick Worthy, who is a Detroit, Michigan native. He's from Southfield, Michigan, but he was also Cylon Model Number 5, Simon the Doctor in Battlestar Galactica.
Really?
Same dude, yeah.
Well, how about that?
How about that? He's a Cylon too. So he shouldn't have had to really worry about getting out of that Jeffrey's tube at all, because he would have just respawned. It would have been just fine.
Yeah. So what I also realized, I didn't think about this before, was like, so Voyager is in Delta Quadrant for years and years. Janeway, as captain, must be handing out like field promotions and enlisting random people all over the place. Is that happening, or what's the deal?
The only promotions that went down on the ship is that, in the very first episode, which I don't know if out of curiosity went back and watched it. I like the series premiere. I like it. It's not perfect, but what happens in that, and I probably explained this somewhat incompletely in the first time we did Voyager, is that the Maquis is the Rebel Alliance of the Starfleet set. One of their ships is in this weird space called the Badlands. They escape their enemies, which is the Cardassians, which of course you saw plenty of in DS9.
Yep.
And this weird anomaly is sweeping through, and it sucks their ship into the Delta Quadrant. Well, Voyager goes to investigate. They also get sucked in. Both ships get stuck together, but in order to survive the attack of this alien race, the Maquis ship has to be sacrificed. So the Maquis crew, which is I think somewhere between 25 and 40 crewmen of the already 140-something people that are already on Voyager, or maybe it's a little bit less than that, have to become one crew. So Chakotay, for example, is he was a Starfleet officer who resigned. He had the rank of lieutenant commander, so he is restored to that rank, and other Maquis individuals are, get officers rank, like B'Elanna Torres becomes chief engineer, and other ones of them are just kind of, Mo's and Joe's, so they're crewmen or whatever it is. So and Tom Paris at that time, who was he was a disgraced Starfleet officer who was stripped of rank. He was in prison, came back. Janeway restored his rank. He became a lieutenant again.
Right.
And then the only real promotion that happens in the time in between, and is that Tuvok gets a promotion from lieutenant to lieutenant commander. Literally the only promotion that happens at all.
Oh, okay. So let me ask you this. So two things with that then. Before Chakotay is made number 1, so to speak, right? It does Janeway have a first officer that Chakotay outranks then when he comes on?
In that first episode, when the Enterprise gets swept into the Delta Quadrant by this caretaker's way, which I know I explained last time. There were all explosions and shit. First officer gets killed. Con officer gets killed. Chief medical officer gets killed, which is why you have the holographic doctor. It's why Tom Paris becomes the helm officer. Yeah, exactly. So those 3 key jobs get killed. Plus, the chief engineer dies, which is why B'Elanna gets that job. So people die off, and that's why people get different positions.
So what about when they get back? Like, because I mean, they don't go. Voyager as a series doesn't go into much beyond, hey, we're back. That's great, right? But like Harry Kim, surely he deserves a promotion soon after they get back, right?
That is the ongoing joke. That's like Harry Kim is the only person who has the same. Well, it's not true, because other people, are pretty much stay at the same rank, but he stays at the lowest rank in the entire series. But there is, and again, with Star Trek is a little different than Star Wars, because in Star Wars, particularly post Disney in 2012, there's the Lucasfilm Continuity Group, books, comics, video games, movies, TV, all are this kind of organic globule. In Star Trek, with the exception of literally 2 things, and they're both actually related to Voyager, literally the only thing that is canon is what is on screen.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that being said, I'll say two things about it. The two canonical sources that were written by Jerry Taylor, who co-created the series, were the backstory of Catherine Janeway, which is an audiobook. I read that back in the 90s, and I just listened to the audiobook recently, which was abridged, so it was like half of it.
Oh, sure.
And then it was the backstory of the rest of the crew, which again
sure.
was abridged. And, but you got a little tidbit of this is what Tom Paris did. This is what Harry Kim did, blah, 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 blah. So, but my point in bringing all of this up is that, in 2001, when the series went off the air, a writer named Christian Bayer, who has now gone on to be a staff writer on Star Trek Discovery, wrote an entire great, 11-book series over the next 15 years of what happened with Voyager after the series ended.
Okay.
And to address your point, immediately afterwards, Harry Kim got a promotion to lieutenant. B'Elanna and Tom both became lieutenant commander, and Chakotay becomes the captain of Voyager, so he gets that promotion. And Tom becomes his first officer eventually. So, those things all do happen, but again,
makes sense.
Those things are not canonical. A big part of that entire series was dispelled by the fact that on Star Trek Picard, which we got last year, 7 of 9 is a character with a different backstory than what you saw in these books.
Oh, so sure.
It's proof that the books are to employ a Marvel aphorism. It's a different dimension in the multiverse.
Yeah. Okay. So actually another question popped in my head as I was doing this, because I don't think this was answered, or if it was, I missed it in TNG or whatever. Is the Borg's home
Borg?
The Borg *S is the Borg's home.
It's just Borg, like deer.
No, I'm saying possessive. Is the Borg's home?
Yes.
Borg *S home. Is their home the Delta Quadrant? Is that their origin?
Their origin is this big, massive, unbroken middle part of the Delta Quadrant. Let's see if I can refer you up to my. Oh, I have the wrong map. Okay, here you go. You can't really see it. Let me see if I can adjust it. So. Yeah. The light's catching it. But if this is the Delta Quadrant, this middle portion is all Borg space.
Okay, so that's kind of where the Borg sprouted up, so to speak.
And because space is so massive, they've spent untold numbers of centuries just putzing around these various systems and assimilating them and doing different stuff. And because they never really knew about, and again, I'm pointing to this, which you can't let me try to. So and again, the light's catching it. Damn it! I really love this piece of art I have behind me. But no, I mean, the Federation is here because of Q in TNG. He tossed them. He
tossed them
7,000 light years away. System J25. There's a Borg cube there, which it actually says right here. And then so the Borg got a taste of it, and so they just continued on
marching on
the Federation.
Yeah.
But the Federation kept obviously pushing them back, which is why the Federation has never been assimilated. But that middle part there, that's Borg space. And there was a portion, it was right after what you and I had talked about last time, which was the Scorpion two-parter. Right after that, when Kess left with her burgeoning powers or whatever, she used her telekinetic mystical abilities to push Voyager beyond Borg space, a distance of 10 years of their trip. They got closer to home.
Ah, nice.
But it was during that arm of it that they couldn't get through Borg. They never would have made it. So there's this big, unbroken, weird, winding chunk of the Delta Quadrant that is just all Borg. All Borg all the time. Yeah.
All Borg all the time. Right. Okay. So here's something that I love Janeway as a captain. I'm coming to love Janeway as a captain more and more as we do this Voyager stuff. And one thing I loved, it popped out in this episode, was that they take on the crew of the Equinox when they come across them.
Right.
And Janeway knows that there is the possibility of having to determine who is really in charge. And so she goes and reads the Starfleet Field Manual rules or whatever, right, the night before. And she's like, well, actually, technically, if it comes down to it, I'm the captain and you're not. QED, right?
Yeah, she quotes a regulation, which, I mean, I'm a super fan, but I couldn't remember the name really. That, in the situation where there are two vessels involved, command will fall to the vessel with tactical superiority.
Yeah.
Which would be Voyager.
Clearly Voyager in this case. Yeah.
Equinox is a rinky-dink science ship. So
Yeah.
They got Jack Diddley.
The other thing I realized too, so they start talking about how this is related to this is more or less the Federation's first contact, or humans' first contact with these little squirmy flying floaty guys, right? I forget the name, whatever you want to call their race.
I think they get in it. God, it's from the planet that they go to, which, I won't lie to you. I've seen these episodes so many of dozens of times that I haven't necessarily watched them before we jump into them, because
right.
And again, I feel bad, so I'll click on this name, but it's like I kind of know the name of it. But anyway, you continue, and then I'll jump back in with that factoid.
Okay, so the thought that occurred to me when I was thinking about, okay, this is their first contact with these floating Slimer guys, is
it's the Ankari.
The Ankari, okay. The Ankari,
nucleogenic life forms.
Nucleogenic life forms, whose carcasses can power warp drives.
Right.
So
wonderful, good stuff.
How unfortunate for them. What I thought about was, oh my gosh, given how many races there are in the Federation, of course, and then just in the races that people encounter as they go traveling about, like, there was a big deal about the Vulcan-human first contact back in 2063, right? That was a huge deal, right?
Oh, yeah.
But these days, in those days, I suppose, first contact must happen all the time, right? Picard and other buddies are to have, like, this was first contact with them, and this was first contact with them, and especially Janeway is having first contacts all over the place, right?
Well, I mean, you could go from planet to planet in the one system, and every planet is a first contact, or there could be several species on one planet that's first contact.
Yeah, I just was like, it's sort of
if you're putting, if you look at my X-wing helmet here, and you're putting hash marks on the side, you'd have a lot of hash marks.
It's like a matrix multiplication, right? Of like every species in the Federation has a first contact with every species that they encounter, right? And the same with whatever. So it's like a huge number of first contacts just happening all over the place. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, right? I did catch on pretty quick. That it was really bad. I was like, holy shit, they have to murder the creatures to power up their warp drive. That is terrible. I love that Janeway said, let's try to make first contact the right way, which I'm glad for that, although it kind of doesn't count because, sorry, first contact already happened and it was really shitty. So I get it, but also too bad.
It kind of sucks, to be honest with you. Yeah, so it's like you're going to be like, hey, guys, we're like Starfleet too, but it's not really the same.
Those guys are jerks. We're the cool ones.
Seriously, let's smoke a bowl. Let's have some whiskey. We'll have some taquitos. I mean, whatever it is, it's got to be.
I was confused at first, but then they explained it later how the Doctor could be beamed aboard another ship, right? I was like, isn't he a hologram? But then he had the little transmitter emitter.
Yeah, and that's something I guess we missed. There was an episode in season 3, so this was actually even the last episode that we watched. It was around, but I don't know that there was a time that he really employed it. But they got stuck. They got stuck back in the 1990s, which is awesome. Great episode called Future's End, which the guest stars were Ed Begley Jr. and Sarah Silverman. I kid you.
Oh, really? Oh, really?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
But what happened was that Ed Begley Jr.'s character had taken possession of some 29th century technology that had crashed into the past, and amongst that was a mobile holographic emitter, which the Doctor's program was downloaded into.
Okay.
So he then once he has it clipped to his shoulder, he can go anywhere.
He can go anywhere. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That helps. Thank you. I also did note too that because partially in the first episode, but also carrying through the second episode, you have you have a second copy of the Doctor.
Right.
The
Yeah.
Equinox,
Yeah.
right?
So it's a different ship, and it's a
Different ship, different
right.
Doctor. But
Different.
the thing I noted was that, like, on that ship, the guy just like turns the toggle off for the morality part of the Doctor, right?
Right.
He's just like, you will no longer be moral, right? And he just turns it off.
They fixed his little red wagon. They're like, oh, we can just make you a total unscrupulous dick. So, boop.
Yeah. So what I realized too is that like that makes the Doctor in lots of ways, but very similar to Data, right? Because Data gets monkeyed with every now and again, right?
Right.
And all of a sudden you have like, it makes the Doctor and Data, like, that makes them uniquely valuable, but also uniquely threatening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because take somebody like Data, his personal and mental and physical capabilities are far beyond a human. And if Data gets like sort of yanked the wrong way, he can go nuts and kill everybody and do everything, right? And like sort of similar is the Doctor, right? The Doctor isn't superhuman strength-wise like Data, but he's got more. He's got more capabilities than a human, mentally speaking, right? He's connected to a computer, all that kind of stuff, right? So the Data and the Doctor share this like high value, high risk. Like combination in them, you know. And that was what I took out of the first episode. There was up to that.
Gotcha.
So now on to part two.
So the first episode ends. There's obviously, the Equinox crew has pulled a flim-flam on Voyager, and they have stolen their like generator thingy that's going to protect them from the oh my god, I was going to say the anamorphic life forms. I've already forgotten what they were supposed to be called. The damn Ankari lizard nucleogenic life forms. So we're into part two. Captain Janeway. So it's funny, and this seems to happen in more than one season premiere. Like Janeway just kind of goes nuts. She goes nuts. She does something out of character. But in the end of it, Chakotay kind of talks her off the ledge, and she's normal again.
Yeah,
but that's what happens here. So Captain Janeway takes her quest for revenge against Captain Ransom to extremes when she orders the use of photon torpedoes against the Equinox, tractors a neutral ship, nearly kills an Equinox crewman, that is poor Detroit native Rick Worthy yet again. During an interrogation, and relieves Chakotay of duty when he questions her actions. So she's all over the place. She's like, you know what?
And
she's like, this dude, he fucked with me. He gave the big middle finger to Starfleet, and I'm going to bust his nuts. He's done. It was a very Sopranos episode of Star Trek.
Yeah.
And even before the Sopranos. No, actually, this was right around the same time as the Sopranos. It was literally the same time the Sopranos came out. This episode came out.
Right. Yeah. So that I'm glad that was the intro, and that was what we talked about there for this episode, because for this episode especially, that thread is what I latched onto, was the Chakotay Janeway relationship, right? Because like at least in what you have sherped me through in both these two and then the previous good ones that we looked at, Chakotay kind of has his moral center, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Janeway gets kind of angry and like shuts him down a little bit. And in this case, Janeway, at least to me, is kind of in the wrong. At least, like Chakotay is like, I mean, this is a torture debate, right?
Yeah,
in this episode, right? And Chakotay's like, we're better than that. And Janeway's like, trust me, we'll be fine. I can go further. I got this. And then, it's scary. And then Janeway has a moment that immediately pinged my head with Picard in First Contact, because she goes, I'm going to hunt him down, the captain guy, no matter what it takes. And immediately, of course, I'm transported to, like,
the
line here, this far, no further. Right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
We'll make them pay for what they've done. That moment in First Contact was like, boom, right here too, right? That Moby Dick, Ahab, white whale kind of thing is present right there too.
Totally.
I loved that. Like, so again, just like the other time, is like Star Trek, even if it's not sort of spoken aloud, it's putting little history or literature in its backpack to go and tell the story it needs to tell, right? And I love that stuff.
Totally.
The Chakotay gets relieved of duty, of course, and then Janeway makes the promise that she will deliver the Equinox to the aliens too, and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, that's pretty intense.
That's intense.
That's
Yeah.
a big. That's quite a hill to die on. You know, I mean, it's
Yeah.
like you're kind of selling out your own people. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah. That was. I was like, ooh, does that? I was in that moment. I was like, does she really? Like, because I know things change as the episode goes on a little bit, but like, was that her intention? Like, was she really going to follow through with that promise? And if so, if she was going to follow through on that promise, like, wouldn't it be sort of your duty as like the rest of your crew to like throw her in the brig? Because she just essentially, or she said she was making a plan to essentially betray Starfleet by saying, you know, hey, this other race, go take them out. Like, you can have them, right? That's sort of got relationship to saying, yeah, they're Starfleet, but fuck them, you take them, right?
yeah. I mean, that kind of flipped me out. Like, yeah, we're the only humans here. We're all part of Starfleet. We're part of the. But you know, you broke the rules, so it's like you're dead. It was very Sopranos. You're dead to me. He's, you know, Uncle Junior is dead to me. My mother is dead to me. She went very Tony Soprano, right? It was like, whoa. Yeah. It was intense.
It was intense. And so I'm glad that they ramped up the Janeway Chakotay thing, like I said, for this episode. Another thing I caught on to a little bit here too was kind of toward the end. The Doctor is talking with, shoot, I forgot which character it was, but the Doctor mentions that maybe himself and whoever this other character is can work to alter the Doctor's program to improve something. I forget what it was.
Probably. Well, the two main characters that you bump it. Well, there's really four characters on the Equinox that you bump to. There was Captain Ransom.
Right.
There was Titus Welliver's character, who was Maxwell Burke. There was the ensign Marla Gilmore, the woman, and then there was the African American fella. Yeah, the crewman Noah Lessing. So it was probably either one of the first two.
So the thing that tripped my mind when in that little moment or in that scene was there was at least the implication, and maybe this is different or maybe this isn't how it works, but the implication was, oh, can the Doctor alter his own program? Like, can the Doctor switch parts of himself on or off and or change parts of his own program?
On his own? I don't know.
Yeah. That like, it was a hint of that. I don't think they did it in this episode, but at least some of the way he worded it left it ambiguous to think maybe he could. So that was just a moment of like, oh, what's this? Right. But the thing that I loved, this was the perfect bookend to the whole thing for me, because earlier in this 2-part series, Janeway and I forget the guy's name, the captain of the Equinox, Ransom. Thank you.
Yeah.
They find the Equinox's little plaque in the rubble of the Equinox, right?
Right.
And they're like, and she's like, let's put that back up. It'll be great, right? Before she knows that he's a piece of shit, right?
Yeah, right.
But then at the very end, Chakotay and Janeway have sort of made up, and then there's a battle and stuff gets wrecked and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And they come across Voyager's plaque, which has been knocked off the wall, right where it goes.
Right. Yeah.
And Janeway says, this thing's never fallen down before. And Chakotay says, let's put it back where it belongs. And to me, that was such a great bookend to the whole thing, especially for all the different themes that are running throughout it, right?
Right.
Because you could say, okay, that's referring, of course, to the plaque itself, right? But you could also say that refers to Janeway's relationship with Chakotay, right? It needs to be put back the way it was,
right? Yeah, because
where it belongs.
They face, and it's kind of funny because you contrast it to Scorpion in season 1 to season 2, 3 over again. They came to clash. You know, it's like, you know, and again, ultimately, Janeway and Chakotay in this post-novel series, they become a couple, they get married, whatever it is. But it's like a husband, you're married, I'm married. You know how it is.
Yeah.
You come to odds, you figure it out, and then you ostensibly you come back together.
Yeah.
And that's what it was in Scorpion. It was, this is the tale of the Scorpion. You can't trust the Borg to not be Borg.
Yeah.
And then, you know, she ultimately does trust him, and that's what saves the day.
Yeah.
And so, but then you come to this as well, and they're very loggerheads. And then they have to, just like a real married couple, they have to talk it out at the end. And they negotiate, and they say, you know, they compromise. I was wrong, you were wrong. I love you, but without that part in this part. But they are a true, just by the nature of the show, because it's not so rank and file the way TNG was, or DS9, as far as, well, this is Starfleet and we have regulations and everything. Everything is going to be in this. In some ways, even though they work really hard at it, and you know, Captain Ransom and his crew are the worst example of it. It's very much the Wild Wild West. They want to follow the rules, but sometimes the rules can't materialize, so they gotta improvise a little bit, but then they gotta bring it back to, you know, like as a Janeway and Chakotay, I love you, no, I love you, I don't want to fight anymore, I don't want to, because they're in love. That's what both of these two episodes, I think, kind of really demonstrate.
And Voyager has no higher authority to appeal to, right? Like, technically speaking, Picard could like call up Admiral Pressman, right, and be like, Admiral, something's going wrong. What would you say, sir? Right? Whatever. But Voyager, they're alone.
Yeah, they don't have any orders. They could be like, well, you know, I'm going to contact Starfleet and get further instructions. Nope. You're not contacting anybody about anything. You just got to do it. What you think is right, and in some ways, you know, you're going to do it. Maybe you'll record it in your log, and maybe someday somebody will read it. Maybe somebody won't. But in the moment, you're just going to have to do what you think is okay. And the only consequences are going to be what comes out of the situation, not what some dumbass admiral has to say about it.
Yeah. So Charlie, my question to you is, as my guide, as my Sherpa, what is it about these two episodes that makes you lay them at my feet for my learning, so to speak?
I would simply say I would kind of divide it into two camps. A, you have the classic, I don't want to say Star Trek trope because it casts a certain negativity on it, but you have the dichotomy of, you know, what's more important, doing the right thing for the big picture, or for what we are ostensibly trained to believe, that we respect all life, you know, all life is sacred, or, you know what, all life is sacred unless we're stranded 70,000 light years from home and we're dying because we don't have food, water, shelter, and our ship is about to blow up. You know what I mean? So you're right. What happens when the uncorruptible Starfleet becomes corrupted? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, you start out with a crew of 80 people. I mean, the Equinox was a rinky-dink little ship. And he goes through to describe it. He says, in the first week I lost half of my crew. And then we dicked around, and we managed to find a wormhole, which got us to the point where we're at now. But other than that, our ship was falling apart. We didn't have power for food. We were all just dying. And then we found our salvation in accidentally discovering that by killing this creature, we could power our ship.
Yeah.
So rather than just die, we decided to say fuck it to our principles so that we could live. Where Janeway looks at that and says, and again, it's funny because this was somewhat reflective in an episode of Battlestar Galactica that I recently rewatched. I'm kind of Sherping my best friend Miranda through watching Battlestar Galactica for the first time. And we recently came upon the television movie, which was Razor, if you're familiar with the series. And it was the in-between series where you saw Lee take command of the Pegasus, and they had to have this debate where, you know, they butchered innocent civilians, and even Adama, the admiral himself, says, well, you know, as I read her logs, I can't really find anything wrong with what she did, because you know what, I didn't have to make the choices that she made. I didn't have to figure out that, well, if I didn't take parts from these civilian ships and leave these people stranded, that we would have died and we couldn't have gone on, you know, blah, blah, blah. So selfish, yet somewhat purposeful.
Yeah.
It's kind of where the Equinox lands. So that's the first part of it. I know that was kind of a long way around to get back to my point.
Yeah.
But again, something else I touched upon is that it continues to grow what I find to be the most interesting relationship in the series, which is Janeway and Chakotay, because they start completely at odds. I mean, her mission is to arrest him. That's the crux of the series. I got to find this Maquis criminal and arrest him. That's my mission.
Yeah.
But it turns out that they end up on the ship together, and they start to form this bond that goes beyond romance, that goes beyond friendship. But ultimately that they love each other. And again, you're married, I'm married, I've been married before that, so I understand the nature of being in a relationship that doesn't work, but I do understand the nature of being in a relationship that really does.
Yeah.
And all relationships, romantic or otherwise, friendships, are about compromise, and it's about not being prideful. It's about saying, you know what, I fucked up. What I said was wrong. I know that I hurt you. I want to make it right. Here's my compromise.
Yeah.
And so I feel like this, what was dissected in this, what was that as well? You had kind of another evolution, and that Janeway Chakotay marriage, if you will, that kind of moved things forward, kind of the next stop. So that's why I felt this was great, and I will probably. Oh God, this is our last Voyager one. I really wanted to make you watch the series finale. I feel bad about that.
Well, that's okay. I'll make a guest appearance later on in the podcast, and I'll finish my trek up Voyager Mountain with that one.
Maybe with one of the special episodes that I'm planning, one of those will simply be the series finale of both series.
Oh, right. To summit the mountains, right? Yeah.
So that you can feel the summit of the mountain. So
okay. Yeah.
So that wraps up talking about the good.
So let's talk about relationships, but in a different way now.
That's why this is the absolutely much ballyhooed, and people are like, "What?" Oh, so we're in season 2. This is episode 15, which puts us a little bit past the halfway point of season 2. The episode is called Threshold. A specially outfitted warp-capable shuttlecraft piloted by Tom Paris, obviously, successfully breaks the barrier and reaches warp 10. Breaking the transwarp barrier. But the side effect of breaking the barrier might cost the Voyager crew their best helmsman in more ways than one. So, Paul, please.
So, okay, first of all, overall, this episode, you're absolutely right. I kind of started it with a little bit of interest, like, oh, interesting. Maybe they're going to push the warp barrier, right? But it was like no time before the thing went off the fucking rails. Oh, sorry for my dog there.
That's all right.
It was like no time before this thing goes off the fucking rails. Because as I thought about this, I was like, I don't know if you want to edit the audio there or whatever.
It's not your fault. I don't care. You know what? I believe in the raw quality of podcasting. It's okay.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you. It's a little insane to me that like a ship stranded in the Delta Quadrant without a full complement of like researchers and theoreticians and whatever is like, we're the ones who are gonna break the warp 10 barrier, right? Like,
right, yeah, they slice it up like, oh, we stumbled across this planet that had this blah blah blah, this and that, and now we think we can do this thing that nobody in 200 years of warp theory on Earth has ever been able to pull off. But you know what? Fuck it. We got this. It's good.
So it's stress. I mean, it does follow a little bit of the Star Trek trope of like, we're in a situation and I know, and this happens in like medical shows too, right? We're like, oh, I know, I'll just invent a new procedure and give this guy a third heart. And that will save his life, right?
A third heart. What about the second one? Did he have a second one first?
Well, no, they were already doing the second one. Now they're doing the third one, right?
Okay.
But I got it. But like Grey's Anatomy or whatever, right? Where they'll invent a new procedure on the table to save this guy's life or whatever. So it kind of follows that trope of like, Data's like, theoretically, Captain, if we invert the tachyon pulse to the deflector array, then we can blah, 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 right? It just happens all the time.
You just absolutely described the series finale, all good things, because
I
think
did.
That's what they did.
An inverse tachyon pulse. Yep.
Inverse tachyon pulse. Thank you.
Yeah. So there was that. And then I don't know, like this, there must be just so above and beyond like the goofy shit that happens. There's also a quality layer of like the dialogue in this episode is all screwy. It's all weird and goony, and I don't know how to describe it except this. There's a moment here where so Paris and Harry, helped up by Neelix, have like kind of figured out, we need to like, change the phase matrix on the pylon thing or whatever, and then we can do it, right? And so then Paris is like chilling in his like space robe right at night, and Janeway comes to visit him, and Janeway's like, hey, look, the doctor looked at your DNA, you might have a problem if you're the one to do this. I'm thinking maybe it should be Harry. And Tom Paris tries to make the case that he should do it. And he says, and so Janeway's like, there's a 2% chance that you could go all fuckways, right? And Tom Paris makes the case to Janeway that like, this is my flight. People told me I was special all along, right? All this kind of stuff. And I thought to myself, how is that a justification for you being the guy to do this? Like, Janeway as the captain should clearly pick Harry Kim. If Paris has a 2% chance of going all fuckways with this DNA stuff or with Prion or whatever stuff in his brain, and Harry Kim doesn't have that, and this is their chance to do the most amazing thing ever done, Janeway should pick Harry Kim. It shouldn't matter that Paris, like, his friends told him he was special. That doesn't matter. Like, in the moment, Harry Kim is the right choice for this one, if there's a 2% chance that you're going to melt in your seat or whatever when this goes down, right? So there was all
like, it's good. Yeah, it was kind of like, well, you appealed to me. Like, if you made that pitch, and I don't want to say it's because Janeway is female, so is this something related to gender? But if you made that same pitch to Picard or Kirk or Cisco, would they just be like, fuck you?
Yeah,
do what
like,
I say and shut your face.
The writers did Janeway wrong here. Because Janeway, any rational captain would be like, Paris, I'm sorry, it's going to be Harry Kim. Deal with it. Go on the holodeck and like murder people. Who cares? But that's just what's going to happen, buddy. It's going to be Harry Kim.
Right.
Then Paris gets on the shuttle, and and he goes pew into warp, and the Voyager's like pew after them, and they're kind of tracking along with each other. And then Paris goes and he cracks through the barrier and gets to warp 10.
Right.
Okay. And according to the theory that people have in their heads in that time, warp 10 means you're everywhere at once, right? Whatever that fucking means. And so this was also like first of all, that's like you're leaving yourself in a bad place story-wise if that's the theory of what happens. But second of all, like there's at some point, I think it's either Tuvok or Harry, is like, Captain, we've lost the shuttle. Well, yeah, no shit, you lost the shuttle. If it's everywhere at once, how are you supposed to find it? Like, why did you expect to follow it if it was going to blast off to everywhere, right?
It ain't no place. Ain't no place. Yeah, exactly.
And then, so I wrote in my notes here. I wrote, no shit, he's gone. If he can be everywhere at once, where the hell do you think he'd go?
Right.
Right. And
elsewhere.
Elsewhere. And then I thought to myself too, it was crazy. They kind of explained it later, but it was, I don't know. Like, if Paris is now everywhere at once, then like him popping back out anywhere close to Voyager is a ridiculous coincidence.
Right.
Right? Because if he's everywhere in the universe,
if
he's everywhere in the universe, he should either be like dissipated to nothing or like an equal chance of popping out anywhere else. Right. So anyway, I was like, oh, come on. The groundwork here of like, because sci-fi has that thing of like, we're going to give you these nuggets of here's what warp is, and here's what impulse is, and here's what phasers are. And you have to build the story based on understanding the nuggets. But if they give you nuggets and then they just kind of like shit all over the Nuggets, it wrecks the sci-fi scaffolding of the story itself, right? To me, if I can't trust the science or even the made up science nuggets of the thing, I'm already lost in my sci-fi story. So that, to me, I was like, oh, come on. I did love that. So when the shuttle gets back, and they're like, he was everywhere. We have all these great maps of the Delta Quadrant now. He has information. And they said he had 5 billion gigaquads of information. And
of this one sector. We're like, so the fuck what?
Yeah. If he was everywhere, he should have a lot of information, right? But yeah. I also love the made up sort of storage terminal of 5 billion gigaquads. Like, what does it even mean?
1.21 gigawatts?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And then this is, I thought this was possibly the most fucked up part of the whole story of the architecture of the story, which was Paris is in sickbay after he goes on the shuttle. Right. And it's like, it feels like it's like 20 minutes of them just talking about him being in sickbay and him Paris is laying in the bed for so much of this fucking episode.
Right.
That it's like so
mellow.
It's so boring. And then somehow in that part, some part of it, I don't even know where, I lost my mind during the whole thing, was like he tells the story of himself losing his virginity.
Right.
What?
Bro, like,
come on, man.
Shit.
I don't want to know that.
Take it easy, lizard boy. Well, purely you got to talk about, obviously, how this fucker capped off, because it's like, damn.
Yeah.
Struggling.
It's weird, too, because he's like, there's a moment that I don't know how to process, because he's like, he's changing his body. He's getting all crumply and weird and stuff like that. And he's like, I just want one more kiss from a woman or whatever like that. Right. And that, first of all, that I was like, that's weird, but I mean, I guess I get it, but that's weird. But then after you think he's died, they lower the little shield so the atmosphere can be normal again. And then Kes walks over and she gives him a little peck on the cheek. And I wasn't sure how to feel about that moment. I didn't.
Is weird. Yeah, it
is
really
weird.
Very organic. Yeah.
It was. I kind of didn't like it. I don't know. It was just like everything else in this episode. It didn't feel like anything. It felt wrong.
Right.
He's got his. One thing I noticed too, as he's morphing into so he wakes up that night or whatever, he under the blanket, he's like, actually, I'm still alive. Boo, surprise. And then as he's going further along, you get some shots of him, of the actor in his new, like, going toward the salamander state, right? Right. And he's got these little throbbing things on both sides of his head,
right?
That are clearly like mechanical things.
Well, air bladders,
air bladders, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that must be hell to act in.
Right.
Is if you got to sit there and be like, here's how I lost my virginity, and the air sac is like on your head.
That's a complicated move any lady would appreciate. Air bladders.
Yeah. Ladies, appreciate your man if he's got air bladders on his head.
He's working hard.
There was another moment too where it made no sense to me. It was the doctor sitting at a terminal. Like, why does the doctor type on a keyboard?
Because he is the computer.
Why? I don't understand. Like, why would you materialize a hologram just to type information back into your own self? Because you're a computer, right?
And then give him a chair so he can.
And give him a chair. Like, what does it matter, man?
Don't give a hologram a chair. That's almost a better name for this episode.
Don't give a. Oh yes.
I'm kind of partial to sticking with the Janeway's gone full Tony Soprano, but I don't know. It's a tough call. All right, so give us the capper. End of the episode.
This is so fucked up. the end of the episode is so fucked up. So okay, so here's what happens is they Paris, who is like continuing to evolve, and this is fucked up in so many ways because the way that they describe this, the way the doctor describes what's happening to Paris is like he's undergoing advanced evolution in the human genome and all this, something like that. That is a fundamental misunderstanding of evolution, right? That is a fundamentally dumb interpretation of what evolution is. Okay, so let's leave that. Secondly, okay, so Paris, who is changing, kidnaps Janeway, gets her on the shuttle, and they blast off to warp 10 again. Mm-hmm. And then Chakotay and the rest of the Voyager eventually find them again. Mm-hmm. And they track them down to a planet they've landed on. And oh god, this is so fucking weird. So on this planet, it's kind of got this jungle foliage, and there's these two big giant salamanders. They look like actually axolotls. I don't know if you know what those are. They have there's the salamanders that have the little tree-looking gill things on top of their heads. So those are axolotls. I'll send you a picture sometime. Okay. They're big giant ones, right? Right. And they're just like kind of chilling on this like nighttime beach thing. And then Chakotay and somebody else, who I forget who was with him, show up, and like the first thing he does, he phasers both of those things.
Very reasonable response.
Very reasonable response to like
good pick.
Good choice, yeah. And then they're like, okay, there's some remnant human DNA here. Okay, so this probably is Paris and Janeway. Okay, fine. Which one's which? Well, that one's the female, so that's probably it. And then like it gets more fucked up because then little baby salamander guys crawl out of a little hole between them and like jump in the pond that they were in, right? So there's the two phasered, like stunned giant salamander guys or creatures. And then their little babies like skitter off into the pond and swim away. And so Chakotay and whoever else decides, I know, let's take the salamander guys, the parents, but leave the babies on this planet.
Do no harm. It's the prime directive. Can't interfere.
Like that's but that's, to me, that is the most interference you could do, because that's like an invasive species on that planet. That planet did not have advanced human evolved whatever fucking salamanders on it before.
Just think about the end of my favorite episode of The Simpsons, Bart versus Australia, and the bullfrogs. Now the bullfrogs, which then overtake the country. No,
yeah, like that's essentially what they're setting up here. Is that like, I guess we're just gonna let this planet become the home of, by the way, the Janeway Paris family, right?
Yeah, right.
The fucking, like, it'll become the fucking planet of the Janeway lizards.
Well, and at the end, when they're in sickbay and they've been restored to human appearance or whatever, they're very glib about it. She's like, "Well, Captain, I don't know what to say except I don't remember it," and she's just like, "That's cool because it's not like maybe you weren't even the aggressor or whatever." So I'm like, "Oh, good, my captain decided to fuck me as a salamander."
I was gonna say, so I guess the captain is saying that like she took advantage of me on this, as we both evolved into these.
Maybe.
Yeah. This was so like I thought this episode was bad before the last 5 minutes, and then the last 5 minutes happened, and I was like, this shit is bananas off the rails.
They took it to it was at a 7, and then it was like a 14.
Yeah,
doubled up crazy.
It was fucking loony.
I got you.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
that's my take. This was completely bonkers. They don't understand evolution. They massively violated the Prime Directive, and possible power interchange sex play thing there between Janeway and Paris.
It was a sex reversal salamander sex twig.
They're doing the reverse salamander right there. Hey-o.
Oh my hey-o. Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I am super bummed. We only have 1 week of this left.
Yeah,
we're going to go back to DS9.
Well, back to DS9.
I'm going to have to give you your assignments, and then we're going to
Yeah.
have to call it quits. But with that, Paul, if you would be so kind to take us out of the end of the program.
For more information about Starfleet International, please visit Grand Petoskey and Region 13 on Facebook.
Woo!
And don't forget to make love to every salamander you see.
Climb every salamander. Oh my God. I'm sorry. They gave me a little Diana Ross there. But no, friends, thank you as always for joining us. I'm going to tell you as always that sharing is caring and to keep on trekking.
Code 47 is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for our great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, or the podcast platform of your choice. If you would like to be part of the conversation, visit our new Discord server, or join us on Facebook, or follow us at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends on YouTube, and don't forget to visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.